Good evening and welcome to Destinland Christian Center. I'm Pastor Bill, and we are glad that you have joined us this evening for our midweek Bible study. Tonight we're going to finish talking about faithfulness. We started it last week. It is one of the fruit of the Spirit. Now, some of your Bibles will say faith, other Bibles will say faithfulness, but really it is the Greek word pistis that we're getting the word faithfulness from, and it means an unswerving allegiance. So when we talk about faithfulness, that's really what we're talking about, a loyalty. And faithfulness is something, that you might hear it. It's not spoken as much as it used to be, but it's definitely not practiced like it should be. There's way more unfaithfulness. You get rewarded for unfaithfulness in America. You do not get rewarded for faithfulness. Our government rewards unfaithfulness. Our government doesn't reward faithfulness. They will give you all kinds of, you don't pay your bills, you don't, pay your loans on time, they'll give you grace. But if I pay every month and do what I'm supposed to do, I don't get any breaks. Nobody throws a parade for me or, pats me on the back because I'm faithful to do what I need to do. But if you're unfaithful, they got all kinds of programs and plans for you. But do they have a program for you to be blessed by being faithful? And so there are not too many of those out there. So we're going to be talking about that tonight. Don't forget, tomorrow night is Celebrate Recovery. Very important that you remember that. And we start at 6:30 with a little, fellowship. And then we have our large group and small group. We need to continue bringing candy in. You're doing a great job, but continue to bring it in. We only have about a little bit more than 2 weeks left till Easter. That is absolutely crazy. Now, I didn't ask you, but did you like that little video clip that Miss Britton put together? We're making another one with just the ministry. So on Sunday, remember I showed you that? Did you see it? You didn't like it? Elvia didn't like it, Miss Britton. You didn't like it. You said you didn't like it. Oh, you did like it? Okay. You didn't like your part. Well, no one ever does. But, I think it turned out good. So, we're going to be doing one with, with ministries. And so be passing that on. And if somebody wants to know something, just send them to our website. That's a really good place to go. That's a nice little video. It's 1 minute and 30 seconds. And it's something that, they can get a little bit of a feel for the people and for myself. And so don't forget, next Wednesday is our men's and women's, so we need to be ready. I don't want to call you up on Tuesday night at midnight to make sure that you two cats are ready. Of course, I'll already be with one, and I won't be up at midnight, so I won't be able to call you. But don't forget, next Wednesday is our men's and women. We're going to be having a church cleaning on the Saturday, the 9th at 9:30. And then our marriage ministry meeting is going to be April the 10th. We're talking about couples in the Bible. It's really a fun little Bible study. So come on out on the 10th at 5 o'clock for that. Tomorrow is also John's birthday. Tomorrow he's going to be 54. And I think he looks good for 54, doesn't he? And so, you don't think he's 54? You really don't? Huh? So you don't believe I'm 31? No? Wow, you people, now I know why some animals eat their young. You guys are rough. Man. Well, John, he's not as old as me, but, according to everybody I have met, even though he looks a little bit younger than me, I'm still better looking than him. Just because he can grow facial hair does not make him more of a man. I just don't try to prove that I'm more of a man by growing facial hair because my wife don't like it, and then I wouldn't get any hugs or kisses from her. And so that's the truth. I really wouldn't like facial hair. And so it seems shady to you, huh? Well, whatever. But anyway, happy birthday, John. How old will you be? 45. And here I up the ante on you just a little bit. But 45, wow, how does it feel to be 45? Yeah, good answer. See, Britton she knew the answer. You don't know yet because you're not 45, you're 44, so today is your last day. So party like a child of God. Don't party like it's 1999, okay? We don't want you to do any of that, all right? All right, so we're talking about faithfulness. So happy birthday, John. If I forget to wish you a happy birthday, tomorrow. I wish you one tonight, 3 or 4 times. And so, happy birthday, Brother John. Have a great day. 45. The world celebrated, heaven celebrated 45 years ago when John's mother went to the hospital, pregnant, full of a bundle of love, and walked out. How big were you, John? Really? Wow. Man. 8 pounds, 10 ounces. That's a huge baby. I think I was 6 pounds, 8 ounces. But wow, that's huge. Are you sure about that? Do we need confirmation or? Wow, 8 pounds is huge, man. That is huge. All right, well, anyway, let's get to our study on the fruit of faithfulness. Last week, we talked about how faithfulness accelerates the path of adversity. You can either have fear, frustration, flight, fall back, or be faithful when adversity comes. We also talked about how faithfulness is not weakened by human familiarity. So you don't allow what you know to negatively affect you. You ought to let what you know positively affect you. Okay, so you don't sit there and say, well, I'm getting bored with him. I don't like his mannerisms. They're getting on my nerves, and then become less faithful. You ought to let what you know. That's why Paul said, judge me by the Spirit. Don't judge me by the flesh. If you know me by the flesh, and if I know you more by the flesh, that's more challenging to, stay faithful. It doesn't mean it can't be. You should, either way. But it's like in a marriage, when me and my wife have been married 23 years, there's probably not too much that I'm going to find out about her in the next 23 years that's going to surprise me. I know just about everything. If there's too many surprises in the next 23 years, well, that's a whole nother story. And so she probably won't find out anything different, from me in the next 23 years. We know pretty much just about everything about one another. I know little idiosyncrasies about her. She knows little things about me. Little things bother me about her. Little things about me, she loves. And so, there's, really nothing to be irritated about me. The other day, it really aggravated me because I asked her, I said, tell me something that bothers you about me. And, it wasn't a personality trait. It wasn't, anything about me. It was just one little thing, and it just, oh my gosh, it really bothers me, and so it's not even my fault. It's not even my fault. You got to really try to find something. So I guess it's an improvement for me that I'm as wonderful as I am, that you really have to dig that deep to try to find something. That ain't even my fault. And if I told you, you'd look at her and say, what are you thinking? Come on, give me a break. This guy's fantastic. You're worried about something that is not even a big deal. And it's not even about me. It's just about something that she thinks that I don't do, but it isn't even my fault. You know what I mean? It really isn't. And I'm not living in the, denial realm. It's just, it is what it is. If certain things don't work properly, how's it my fault that it doesn't work properly, okay? And again, we're not talking about me or anything on me. We're talking about things. We're talking about things, okay? Like sinks and toilets and things like that, okay? And so it just bothers me, that you have to dig that deep to find something wrong. But it is what it is. And, everybody's got to find something, right? And so anyway, we also talked last week about how faithfulness elevates us from obscurity. Now, it's better to be faithful than famous, but when you're faithful, you're going to rise to the top. Faithfulness has a way. Remember, David went from trading sheep to being the king. Ruth went from working in the fields to being the wife of Boaz. Abigail went from being the wife of a fool to the wife of a king. Isn't that beautiful? And so we are going to pick up there tonight by talking about the fourth point on our paper, and that is faithfulness penetrates the disguise of hypocrisy. Now, somebody read Proverbs 20, verse 6. Proverbs 20, verse 6. Get a mic and read that.
Most men will proclaim every one his own goodness, but a faithful man who can find?
A faithful man who can find. It turns, faithfulness turns acts of labor into acts of love. So many times we're doing things but we're hiding behind a mask of hypocrisy. For instance, somebody will tell you, they will tell you, how are you doing? Most people are going to say, well, I'm doing great, when really you're not doing great. You hide behind a mask. And what faithfulness does is it penetrates the disguises. It gets through that hypocrisy. And one thing about faithfulness is this: you can't fake faithfulness. You either are or you aren't. You either are faithful or you're not faithful. And so it's very important for us to understand that when we do things, we ought to do things not because we have to, but because we want to. It's not a duty, it ought to be a delight for us to do things. It ought to be worship and not work. So anything that we're asked to do for the Lord, we have to make sure that we understand that faithfulness acts without being asked. So when you're faithful without being asked. If you know what to do, then do it. Nobody should have to keep on you, supervise you. Nobody should have to babysit you to do the things that you know you need to do. There's certain things that are just obvious. And so, we need to get to the point in our life where we are doing things. Because so many people, they're not faithful. But yet, when they're asked to do something, they'll do it out of an act of labor. They don't do it out of love. They do it because it's work. It's not worship. And when you're truly a faithful person, you understand you can't fake it. You can't fake faithfulness. When you're faithful, you'll look at somebody and say, you're faithful. If somebody says, is that person faithful, and you have to think about it, they're not faithful. You either are or you aren't. And the thing about faithfulness is this, that stinks, that many people don't like, is that faithfulness is required in all areas in order to be considered faithful. Faithfulness is required in all areas in order to be considered faithful. Like, just because you're faithful in 2 areas doesn't mean you're faithful in every area. And so, don't come along saying, well, I'm faithful in this and I'm faithful in that. Well, there's 13 other things you're really not faithful in. So that doesn't mean that you're a faithful person because you're 2 out of 10. So I want to know, are you faithful in your relationships? Are you faithful on the job? Are you faithful in church? Are you faithful when it comes to your private personal relationship with God? I mean, these are the things that you really, have to, work through in your life. It bothers me when people want to be something that they're not. It's hypocrisy. You're either faithful in every area or you're not faithful at all. And I know people don't like that, but it's all or nothing. And you can't pick and choose in what areas you want to be faithful and then what areas you don't want to be faithful. Because a faithful person is faithful in every area. They're faithful to show up on time. They're faithful to do their work. They're faithful to finish their projects. They're faithful to do every single thing that, they have on their plate. You can't pick and choose what you want to be faithful in, what you don't want to be faithful in, and then consider yourself to be faithful. That is not faithfulness. And so we got to break through those disguises. We got to break through those masks that we put on. We really want everybody, if we're honest, we want everybody to think better of us than sometimes we really are or deserve. We really want people to think better of us. We want them to think good of us. But, it's important for us to understand how important it is to break through those disguises, break through those masks, break through that hypocrisy. Because when you're faithful in every area. And I don't care how old you get, how long you live, don't ever forget you can't fake it. You either are or you aren't. And I believe that. I believe that with all my heart. I know people that are faithful in a couple areas, but not faithful in all areas, but yet they act like they're faithful in everything. And I don't take that as faithfulness. And the reason I don't take that as faithfulness is because God doesn't take it as faithfulness. Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Well done, thou good and faithful servant. So what is that faithfulness in? Just serving the Lord so you can serve the Lord but be unfaithful to your family? Be unfaithful in your finances? Be unfaithful in business? Be unfaithful on your job? No, it's all or nothing. And people who are unfaithful hate that. I get no amens, even from, I really don't. I mean, you're either faithful in all or you're faithful in nothing. Now that is, I know it's tough to swallow, but don't let that make you mad. Let it challenge you to improve yourself on those other areas, because this is not about perfection. Although you want to make it, because people that are faithful in every area of their life, other people who aren't won't like them. And it's not because they're self-righteous. Faithful people can't be self-righteous people. Faithful people are faithful. I tell folks sometimes, I'm not perfect, but I am faithful. I'm going to make a mistake, but I'm faithful. If I promise something, I'm going to do it. Okay? If I make a commitment, if I buy a car and I got a payment every month, I'm going to make the payment. I don't want to. I don't like getting 48 payments or 60 payments, right? I mean, when I was a kid, it was the max you get when it was 48. Now what's the max? 96? Yeah, it's ridiculous. 96. Let's spread this thing out. Okay, maybe you get to prove you're faithful over a longer period of time, I guess, if that's how you want to look at it. But, I think we need to be way more responsible in every area of our life and allow that responsibility to sort of thrust us into being faithful. Faithfulness is not a game. It's not a joke. It's not just a word. It's not just something you do every now and then, or it's not something you do when you want to do it, or you want to have that be a part of a certain area of your life. You're either faithful or you're not. So if there's areas that you're unfaithful in, you're unfaithful.
Yeah, that's good. Wow. So good.
So there's a label on you. Unfaithfulness. I didn't make the label. You got a choice to do whatever you want to do. I learned a long time ago that unfaithful people are destructive people.
Wow. Okay.
Show me an unfaithful person, I'll show you somebody who will destroy something. They'll mess something up. And is that just a home or a counter or a wall? I'm talking about they'll mess up your heart. That's why I'm against unfaithfulness so much. Because unfaithfulness is destructive. So we can't just fake faithfulness. We have to understand that you either are or you aren't, and you got to be faithful to the point where when you do something, you do it out of love. You don't do it as an act of labor, okay? Another thing about faithfulness is that faithfulness ensures us of a godly legacy. If you want to leave a legacy, there's only one way to leave a legacy, and that's by being faithful. Somebody turned to Ruth 4:11, and then somebody else turned to Mark 14:9. So Ruth 4:11, Mark 14:9. Somebody read it, please.
And all the people that were in the gate and the elders said, We are witnesses. The Lord make the woman that is come into thine house like Rachel and like Leah, which two did build the house of Israel. And do thou worthily in Ephratah and famous in Bethlehem.
Is that Ruth 4:11? Okay, and then somebody read Mark 14:9.
Mark 14:9. Verily I say unto you, whosoever this gospel shall be preached throughout the whole world, this also that she hath done shall be spoken of for a memorial of her.
So in other words, there's a legacy. Ruth in 4:11, you got this woman here who poured, the ointment upon Jesus, and it doesn't matter whether it's Ruth or this woman who anointed Jesus. When we're faithful, we leave an inheritance behind from generation to generation. And a legacy is something that, can't be purchased. You can't buy a legacy. A legacy is sort of an inheritance that's passed down from generation to generation. And just take your last name. Whatever your last name is. My last name is Jenkins. Before, and I hate to put it like this, but it's just the facts. Before I came along, Jenkins represented, in my lineage, it represented, for the most part, if there was one word, it would be alcohol. And it would probably be alcohol abuse, okay? And then everything that goes along with alcohol was attached to that as far as it comes to my last name. I had to work hard to change that. I'm still working hard to change that because I want to leave a legacy behind for my kids that says I have a standard to live up to. I didn't have to do much to live up and exceed the standard of my dad. I didn't have to. All I got to do is, not beat my wife, not get drunk and be an alcoholic, and I would exceed. I wouldn't have to do anything positive, just don't do anything negative. And so that's not leaving a legacy. Leaving a legacy means you not only don't leave something bad behind, you leave something good for somebody's future. And so when you leave a legacy, you're leaving sort of an inheritance for them to embrace and for them to continue on. I had to change and shift the whole paradigm for my family because of what it represented. And so it's important when I got married, my wife understood that's my goal. I don't want you to come along and mess up the opportunity I have to change the Jenkins name and to make it represent something good for our lineage, okay? And so you got to cooperate. You got to walk in agreement. I don't want these things to be a part of my life. Divorce, I don't want to be a part of my life. I'm not going to hit you, but don't think you're going to hit me. That's not okay. And so all of these things are legacies that we leave behind. And you may leave money behind for an inheritance, but leaving a reputation, leaving a moral standard may be the best thing you can leave behind for your kids, is that they know Mom and Dad didn't do that, I shouldn't be doing that. Mom and Dad didn't stand for that, I shouldn't stand for that. They weren't for that, I'm not going to be for that. Because your kids know, my kids know. They know right from wrong, and they base that upon the consistency of what we have accepted and what we have not tolerated during their lifetime. Yes. Right? And so we have to leave a legacy behind for them to inherit. And then the hope is, think about it. I brought my family lineage far compared to what they were. Yeah. My boys have an opportunity to take it to another level. So that's why my children are so important, because I would not want one of my children to lower the legacy. I want them to raise the legacy, okay? So that when they have kids and their kids have kids, they can say, well, you know what? It was Grandpa Jenkins. That man took a stand. He was not just a pastor. He was a person of integrity. He lifted up the standard of righteousness, and he changed it for us. Because no longer is there alcoholism. No longer is there abuse. No longer is there divorce. We have a standard to live up to because he set that standard along with his wife. Okay? Grandma and Grandpa Jenkins. Or whatever they end up calling us, right? And so faithfulness ensures us of a godly legacy. And a legacy is not determined by, what you want it to be. It's determined by who you are. Yes. So you can't change who you are. You can't change the spots on a dog. Yeah. If they're there, they're there. If you're faithful, you're faithful, right? If you're not faithful, you're not faithful. So you can sit there and want your legacy to be one thing, but your legacy is going to be what you have passed down and passed on to your children. So if you leave a legacy that, you're unfaithful, you're incompetent, you're angry, you're this, you're an alcoholic, you're that, you're boom, 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 then guess what? That's the legacy you live. Why? Because it's the life you lived. Yeah. You have an opportunity to change your legacy. You have an opportunity to break every generational curse that your family has had up to this point. You can't change what happened in the past, but you can make a difference in your future. Yes. Okay? And so that's an important thing. In many ways, faithfulness is sort of it's sort of like an insurance policy for your future. Yeah. So it ensures a good future, not for you, but it ensures a good future for your children. Now, can they mess up that future? Absolutely. But you've done your part, and that's all that you can ask for. Now, somebody turn to Luke chapter 16. Luke 16, and you're going to read a few verses, 10, 11, and 12, because when we talk about faithfulness, this is a scripture. To me, this is one of my favorite scriptures in the Bible. I say that, I feel like I say that a lot, but I got a lot of favorites. So if you had me pick the number one, I probably couldn't. But I have a lot of favorites, okay? This is one that I think is, I guess, super necessary for us to understand faithfulness. So read Luke 16, verses 10 through 12.
He who is faithful in what is least is faithful also in much, and he who is unjust in what is least is unjust also in much. Therefore, if you have not been faithful in the unrighteous mammon, who will commit to your truest the true riches? And if you have not been faithful in what is another man's, who will give you what is your own?
Okay, so there are three principles. These are, you have to write these down. And I guess I would appreciate it or like it if you wrote them down the way I'm going to say them. Because this is an important thing for us to understand when it comes to faithfulness. There's some principles of faithfulness. If you're going to be faithful, number one, you have to understand you're going to have to prove that you're going to be faithful in the small things before God gives you an opportunity for great things. In many ways, you're going to have to prove to be faithful in the unseen, in the unsung, and the unsightly. You're going to have to prove to be faithful when nobody's watching.
Yeah.
You're going to have to prove to be faithful when nobody pats you on the back. When there is no reward for your faithfulness.
Yep.
Openly. Okay? You're going to have to prove to be faithful when everybody else doesn't want to be faithful.
Yeah.
So the first thing is you've got to prove to be faithful in the small things before you're given the opportunity for great things. You're never going to do anything great until you do the small.
Yep.
Somebody tell me what a small thing would be. A small thing. What would be a small thing you could show your faithfulness in? Keep your house clean. That's a good one. What else?
Being faithful in church.
Be faithful coming to church, paying your tithes. What's another thing? What would be a small area that you could be faithful in? Prove to be faithful in a small area.
Take your shoes off before walking on the carpet.
If that's a request when you're walking to somebody's home, absolutely. You want to be faithful to do that. You want to do it in your home. I do it in mine. You may not want me to take off my shoes in your home. But I try to always be considerate of that. Somebody else, what would be a small thing that you could be faithful in?
Hygiene.
Fantastic. Look at you. 44-year-old stepping up. You might be the student of the night with that kind of attitude. Those answers get you a lot of play. That's beautiful. In your hygiene, you want to be faithful, but you can't comb your hair. You can't put deodorant on. You got bad breath. You're not trying to, comb your hair. You're not trying to keep up on how good you look.
Yeah.
My wife has said that to my boys 100,000 times. That you know what you gotta get your clothes. I'll wash your clothes, but at least put them in the laundry hamper. And so brush your teeth, take a shower every day. These are normal That's a very fantastic one. Absolutely, that's a little bit. It's an unspiritual thing, but it is a major thing to show your faith. Somebody else, what could you be to show your faith in a small thing?
Showing up on time to work and not leaving out early or taking extra lunch breaks.
Yes.
Great.
Yep.
Somebody else. What would be something that you would say, even if you want to chime in through the streaming, we'll announce it if you type it in there. We'll go ahead and say it. Go ahead, Manny.
Just your basic husband duties, open the door, bring a flower once in a while, put a note in her lunch, say hi, just be a husband, somebody who's loving, compassionate and caring, and
Just serving and
general.
showing love.
Just serving her,
For no reason.
None.
Right, okay, good. What else? Somebody else?
Keeping your car clean.
Keeping your car clean. What else? These are little things. Go ahead.
I think you already touched on it, but just taking care of yourself, like being active, like physically.
Physically active, going to the gym. Me and my wife go to the gym 4 times a week, whether we want to or not. And most times it's when we don't want to. Very seldom, if I ask my wife, you want to go? No, I don't want to go, but, let's leave in 10 minutes. we don't like going. We've been playing racquetball, so that sort of helps us. And, she's improving, and so it helps me to enjoy it even more. And we have a good time out there. So, that 45 minutes, hour workout goes a long way in helping me to feel better. So, yeah, absolutely, taking care of your physical body by exercising, okay? So there's a lot of things, and you can think about those things and put it down later, but it is extremely important for you guys to understand that faithfulness has to start in the small, in the little, in the unseen, in the unsightly, in the unsung. Somebody chiming in through our streaming? Go ahead and say it.
They said tithes, paying your tithes, and reading the Bible.
Reading the Bible. When you read the Bible, you don't read the Bible for somebody to say, my God, they read the Bible every day. I read the Bible for me. I don't read the Bible for you. Exactly. And so, fantastic. And so, those are the things that you have to do, the small things, the little things. Yeah. Being consistent in every area of your life. That's part of the small. The second principle that we read about in Luke chapter 16 is you got to prove to be faithful with money before being given true spiritual riches. Now, this is a tough one. This is a tough one because most people, and when I use the philosophy that, if you're not faithful in every area, you're not faithful in any area, this is tough. And the reason is because you might be faithful in 100 areas. But if you're not faithful with your money, not being faithful with your money by paying tithes, not being faithful by your money by not overspending, being faithful with your money by not getting in debt, those are important things. If you're in debt, have a goal, have a budget, have a plan to get out. Yes. You can get into debt fast, but it takes a while to get out, right? Like getting into debt's easy, man. That don't take no work. Boom, bingo, bango, you are in debt. But to get out of debt, it takes a lot longer. Yes. And so there's some things you have to understand about money. You have to incorporate God into your money by giving a tenth. Yes. You don't tip God by giving him whatever you want to. No. You're consistent and systematic in your giving by giving a tithe. The word tithe means tenth. So when you give God a tithe, what you are doing is you're incorporating God in your finances. And then you have to make sure you're managing that 90% in a way that's going to be pleasing to the Lord. I hate debt. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it so much that I don't like to go get loans for anything. I'll save my money, I'll save up, and then I'll purchase it and pay cash for things. And so most people are not like that. Most people, they, take out a loan, and sometimes there's nothing wrong with that, but if I put money on a credit card, I pay it off every month. Yeah. I have never, listen to me, I have never, I'm a little bit older than John, but I'm better looking, don't forget that. But you don't have to agree, okay? You're the only one. Everybody else better agree. Even your children better agree, okay? But you're the only one. But anyway, listen to me. Do you know, I have never, I've never been in debt. Nope. I've never been in debt. And that's because I've been in such debt. I've been so poor when I was a kid, and I saw the stress it created. I said, I'm never going to be in debt in my life ever again. Yeah. I've never paid interest on any credit card. Yeah. No interest on a credit card, okay? Can't say that for a house. Right. Can't say that for a car. Right. But for a credit card, I've never paid any kind of interest. I'll pay it off at the end of the month so that I don't get charged more interest and have to pay more for something that wasn't worth what it cost me when I originally bought it.
Right. Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
And so you can get out of debt, but you got to have a plan. You got to have a plan to get out of debt. And one of the ways you have a plan to get out of debt is what? Somebody tell me. The big word. The B word.
Budget.
Budget. If you don't have a budget, you're never going to get out of debt.
Yes.
It's the truth. I mean, listen, I think I can help anybody. I can help Bill Gates make more money. There's nobody I can't help with money. I don't care if they're rich or if they're poor, I can help anybody. And if anybody needs help with their finances, I can help you to be able to get debt relief and to be able to, find more money. But you have to follow that plan, okay? Sometimes people say, well, why don't you just take on because you couldn't do it. I've had some people say, go ahead and just take over my finances. Well, I could, but you'd be a miserable person. You really would be. You'd be miserable because I would use your money the way I would use my money. And I live like I'm poor. I really do. My kids tell me all the time, why are you, doing this? I make food and, that food lasts, we get 2 or 3 meals out of that. I hated leftovers when I was single. I love leftovers when I'm married and have 3 kids. I love it. What are we eating tonight? Leftovers. Okay? As a matter of fact, we got leftovers from a couple nights, so which leftover do you want, Monday night or Tuesday night? Okay? And you laugh at that, but that's the reality in my home. So if you said to me, Pastor, I want you to take over my finances, and every dime, every dollar, you control it, you would hate me. You would hate me. And so it would ultimately help you, but you couldn't live like I live. You just couldn't live like I live. Because the way I live, I'm tight. I make things last. Things in my house last longer. I had towels that I used to dry off with when we got out of the shower that had holes in them. How much is a towel? I don't even know. $8? That's how cheap I am. You just use the towel. It's got a hole in it, my wife said. Okay. I mean, the majority of it's still there, right? Okay. And I did break down. I did break down and buy new towels, a while ago. But you think that that's a joke. See, you laugh at that and think it's funny. You don't understand. When I say I buy a pound of meat and it goes for 5 people, it's a pound of meat. And we may put a little bit less meat on that hamburger or on that, sloppy Joe. But, I told Jess and John how much I spent at the store every week. They'd think I'm lying. Okay, and I'm amazed at how much they spend at the store. I'm like, no, listen, you guys, you need to get 2 other part-time jobs just to pay for your little food budget. Because for me, I'll make that thing last. So when I get something, boy, it's a meal after meal after meal. I think it through, man, to where, hey, this is Monday, this is Tuesday, this is Wednesday, and we're going to make this stuff last. Now, I do splurge. I'm not very good on vacation because I'm relaxed and I let my guard down. So if you ever no, it's not good. But if you ever go on vacation with me, I spend. But it's because I have it to spend. I've saved it to spend. I don't just spend it and then have to pay for it. I don't think I've ever gone on a vacation that I haven't had it paid for before I left. Wow, that's good. Yeah. And it's not because I'm rich. I just handle my money right. Okay, I plan ahead. I'll start putting money to the side for things. Now, this intimidates some of you, I can see, right? Like you don't like it. It bothers you. And I don't say it in a bragging way. I'm just saying this is over years of doing the right thing with money that I've established these habits. For some, you can't get, you can get into debt quick, you can't get out quick. So it's going to take you a lot longer. But I just don't. I hate debt so much, I practice the fact that I hate debt. I have a car that's a 2007 Mustang that I don't even want to get rid of, even if I got a newer car. And if I could pull up in a brand new Corvette. I could pull up into it right now. Boom, bingo, bango. And some of you be like, nah, that ain't right. Why is the pastor driving that? Well, what about the fact that I drove a 2007 Mustang for 17 years? I ain't bought a car. Okay? I've only bought 3. I bought 4 cars in my lifetime, and 3 of those was way before my wife came along. Okay? And so you have to be thrifty because handling money is one way to show that you are faithful in every area of your life. Because usually if you can't handle money, there's other areas that are getting the best of you. Okay? And so money is an issue that's talked about more than hell. So when you don't want to talk about money or tithes or giving, then, you know what, let's not talk about the devil or hell either. Because those things are mentioned in the Bible. Giving and money is mentioned in the Bible, and money is an important way for us to tell whether somebody is faithful or not. Okay? So, very important for us to understand. You got to prove. Everybody say prove. You got to prove to be faithful with money, which means you got to get out of debt. If you don't have a budget, you got to set a budget, okay? And if you don't know how to set a budget, I can help you. There's a certain amount of money that you should not be putting. You ought to be able to save what you tithe. You ought to be able to have your mortgage at a certain level, because when you go get a house or you go get a car, mostly when you get a house, they tell you, well, this is what you need, right? Well, that's minus the gas bill. That's minus the water bill. That's minus your trash bill, right? They don't put that in. And so you incorporate all that in. It takes a lot more to be able to handle a house or, a condo or an apartment than what they tell us sometimes, because all they care about is you buying it. They don't care about you paying the gas bill. They don't care about you paying the water bill. They don't care about you paying the electric bill. They just want you to pay the house bill, right? And what happens is you get that house that you wanted, you paid a little bit more for than you should have, and then it's affecting other areas of your life, like you can't go to a date night, you can't go on vacation, you can't pay your tithes. Why? Because you're bound by the money, okay? And so if you want to live like that, I guess that's your choice. I made a decision as a kid that if I ever wanted something, I have money behind my license, like whenever I get a wallet, there's some requirements. And one of them is I have to have a little place where I put my license, because behind my license, I put $50. And the reason is because when I was a kid, there were things that I wanted that I couldn't afford. And they were small things. It was a pack of cards. It was a bottle of Coke. It was a comic book. And these were little things. So what I did was, when I became 21, I put money behind my license, so that if I ever wanted something, most of the times the things I want are little, I would have the money to buy it. And I would never, and usually because I have the money, I'll decide I don't really need that. Okay? A lot of times we get drawn away from our own lust and enticed because we want something that we can't afford. We try to figure out ways to pay for what we really shouldn't be buying to begin with. Okay? So I know we don't like talking about money in church, but money is important. And you're going to have to learn how to handle your money, budget your money, control your money, or your money's going to control you. Nobody's going to come along and hand $1 million to you. So you're the one who's got to handle your money right. And sometimes you got to live below your budget. I live below what I'm able to afford. I don't live above my means, okay? And the simple fact is I have a 2007 Mustang. Does that say anything to anybody? What does it say? I'm faithful? What does it say? I take care of my stuff. I have clothes that I had for 15, 20 years. Yeah. No. Do I not? I have clothes. My wife wants new clothes every week. Okay, nothing really, not every week, every other week, but but my family has to force me to buy things for myself. Okay? And so the third principle of faithfulness there in Luke 16 is that you got to prove to be faithful with what belongs to someone else before you'll be given your own. Okay? So until you're faithful with what belongs to somebody else, for instance, you want to be a business owner, you want to be an employer, but you're not a good employee. Think twice. You don't deserve to be an employer because you're not a good employee. Okay? Everybody wants their own of something, but you don't want to help anybody else get to that point. So a lot of times when you see people that have stuff, a lot of times it began with them helping others before they got something of their own. Okay? So that's an important principle to understand in every area of life. And by the way, these are principles that God gives us. These principles will work for a sinner. Even if they're not saved and living for God, if they apply these principles, they will work. They will work. You don't have to be a Christian for the principles of God to work. A lot of principles that a lot of these rich people, they're not even living for the Lord, but they applied the principles of the Bible, and they prospered because they're applying the principles of God. They don't know the person of God, but they apply the principles. Imagine if we as Christians knew more than just the person of Christ. The problem with the church is we only know the person. And we get mad at people in the world who are prospering who only follow the principles. But if we were people that knew the person and followed the principles, how much more prosperous would we be? It's a pretty amazing thought, really. Because in the church, it's all about knowing God, knowing God, knowing God. That's the only thing. No, it's not the only thing. You have to apply the principles of God. There are principles that the world applies, and they prosper every day, that the church doesn't even think to use. And I just gave them to you. They're going to be faithful with what belongs to somebody else and trust they're going to get their own. Okay? But if you're not faithful with what belongs to somebody else, if you can't be trusted with other people's possessions, then how are you going to be trusted with your own? All right, and then let me give you real quickly so we can end faithfulness and move on. Read Revelation 3, 7 through 13. Revelation 3, 7 through 13.
And to the angel of the church in Philadelphia write, These things saith he that is holy, he that is true, he that hath the key of David, he that openeth and no man shutteth, and shutteth and no man openeth. I know thy works. Behold, I have set before thee an open door, and no man can shut it. For thou hast a little strength, and hast kept my word, and hast not denied my name. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee. Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. Behold, I come quickly. Hold that fast which thou hast, that no man take thy crown. Him that overcometh will I make a pillar in the temple of my God, and he shall go no more out, and I will write upon him the name of my God, and the name of the city of my God, which is New Jerusalem, which cometh down out of heaven from my God, and I will write upon him my new name. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches.
So there's a lot there. Fabulous portion of Scripture. One of the 7 churches is what this letter is all about, is who it's being written to. But the bottom line when it comes to faithfulness is there's 3 blessings when you're faithful. The first one is promotion. Read verse 8. Revelation 3:8.
I know thy works. Behold, I have set before thee an open door, and no man can shut it. For thou hast a little strength, and hast kept my word, and hast not denied my name. So God is going to promote us when we're faithful. So there's an open door. An open door means what? An open door into what? Opportunity. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, the second thing that you're going to be blessed by when you're faithful is that your enemies are going to be humbled. Read verse 9. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee. So your enemies, how many of you have an enemy? If you don't have an enemy, don't trust somebody. Everybody ought to have it. Everything good has an enemy. God has an enemy. Jesus has enemies. You think you're going to not have enemies? You can be the best person in the world. You're going to have enemies. Unrighteousness is opposed to righteousness. And so your enemies are going to be humbled. People aren't going to like you. And have you ever had somebody who don't like you, but you don't know why they don't like you? It's because of their soul and your spirit. Your spirit is trying to be better. Their soul doesn't care. So because their soul is rotten, they're going to hate your spirit for making an effort. And the more effort you try to make and the better you become, the more they're going to just hate you, and they don't even know why. I didn't do nothing to you, but they don't like you. Why? Because they just don't like your spirit.
Their soul is in direct contradiction to your spirit. And that's why they don't like you. Okay? But sooner or later, when you're faithful, God says He's going to cause those enemies to be humbled, and they're going to come worship at your feet and say, you know what? You were faithful to God. There is a God. And they're going to thank you for the faithfulness that you have demonstrated. That's a humbling thing for an enemy to do, is to apologize. Right? All right? All right, and then the third blessing is found in verse 10. Read that.
Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth.
So in other words, deliverance. And if you read on there, you see even more. God will deliver us, okay? He's going to deliver us from the judgment. Judgment is coming on this earth. There's nothing you or I can do to stop it. There's judgment that happens every single day. That is imposed upon our world. Some of the things that go on are self-inflicted punishment because we're disobeying God, and as a result of our disobedience, we're bringing trouble on ourselves. You brought it on yourself. Nobody caused it. Nobody imposed it. It's your fault. Then there are other things that come upon you because it's imposed upon you because of your disobedience. Every action has a reaction. Every action has a consequence. So whatever you sow is what you're going to reap. That's life, just like gravity. What goes up is going to come down. If you do good, you're going to get good. You do bad, you're going to get bad. You reap it, or you sow it, you're going to reap it. So promotion, your enemies will be humbled, deliverance. There's so much more than Revelation 3. Great little portion of Scripture. But faithfulness is an unswerving allegiance, where I don't go off track. I don't go to the left or the right. I don't look down. I look up, knowing my redemption draweth nigh. I'm going to serve the Lord. I'm going to be faithful to God. I'm going to show faithfulness to people and allow that to be the greatest witness that I can offer to somebody about serving the Lord in their own personal lives. Okay? All right. Stand with me, and we will dismiss. But faithfulness to me, I did a little Minute That Matters today. I don't know if it's for Monday or for Tuesday, but I said in the Minute That Matters, the only thing that's probably more important than faithfulness is love. Like if you were to rate them, which I hate to do, I really do, but if you had to rate them, there's nothing more important than love, right? But man, faithfulness is 1A. It's just right there. And we have to be more faithful in our lives as parents, more faithful as children, more faithful as adults, more faithful as employees, more faithful as church people, more faithful when we're driving, when we're being seen, when we're around people, when we're not around people. We have to be more faithful. And you can't pick and choose when you're going to be faithful or what you're going to be faithful to. You have to make that decision. You have to have made up mind. You have to be consistent in your behavior, and it can't just be 1 week and you say, well, now I'm faithful. Boy, I wish it was that easy. It takes a long time to reverse some of the curses that we have established or maybe that have been passed down or imposed upon us. They can be done, but it's going to take more than a week. And we want everything in this society to happen right away. So some things you're going to have to be patient with yourself, and you're going to have to be consistent in to the point where it's not just something you do, it's something you are. Faithfulness isn't just some trait you have. Faithfulness is who you are from the inside out. And if you're not faithful, listen, you can't fake it. You can't, sooner or later, if you're trying to fake faithfulness, your spots are going to come off, and people are going to know who you are. And so I challenge you. Faithfulness is not an easy trait to achieve, but if you're not faithful in every area, then you have to improve it because you may not be faithful in any area. So you can't just be proud of yourself for doing 2 things when in 10 other areas you're not really, trying to be more faithful. And again, it's not about perfection, it's about progression. So I did good in 2 areas, but there's 10 other areas of my life I'm going to be judged in. So I need to make sure that, in every area I'm at least making progress. I may not be the best in every one of those areas, but I at least want to be improving in those areas. And if I'm making improvement in those areas, that's what God is looking for, okay? When you stop, when you don't try, when you don't put effort in, then that's where, you lose and the enemy wins. And we don't want that, right? And so, Lord, help us to be faithful. This is an important characteristic and trait. It's a fruit, but, Lord, it's a lifestyle. It's not just something we have, it's something we are. So, Lord, we lift our hands, we yield our hearts, and we ask, God, that you would help us to help ourselves by being more faithful. Faithfulness is not something we can pray for, and then all of a sudden it's zapped upon us. Faithfulness is something we have to demonstrate in our everyday life as we're consistent in being faithful in every single area, so that, Lord, when we stand before you, you're going to say, well done, thou good and faithful servant. Enter in to the things that I have prepared for you. We love you. We thank you. I bless the people. Encourage them tonight. Let them walk in faithfulness, Lord, in every area, in Jesus' name. And everybody said amen and amen. God bless you. Hope you had a good night. Have a good rest of your evening. Be blessed. And until next time, friend, God bless.
If you live in Rancho Cucamonga or anywhere in the IE, Pastor Bill and the congregation of Destiny Land Christian Center would like to invite you to attend one of our powerful services, Sunday at 10 a.m. and Wednesday at 7 p.m. If you need prayer or just want more information about the church, please call us at 909-727-3452 or email us at destinylandcc@gmail.com. Destiny Land Christian Center, a new church for a new day.